Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wilde, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between. Thank you for joining me tonight. Oh, hold on. I got too much noise going on. All right, there we go. Hope everybody's doing great tonight on this lovely Saturday night. We are being broadcast live, of course, on Truth Frequency Radio, iHeartRadio. Tune in and TalkStream Live. So thanks for joining me. And if y'all are on YouTube, shout out. Don't forget to do that like and subscribe button. Yeah, it should be going. Anyways, if you're not hearing me on YouTube, just let me know. Thanks, regular girl. I try to have a decent voice. There are days when it just fails miserably. I don't have Brent's gift for odd voices, but I can tell when I'm grouchy that southern twang that I have just a little bit kind of comes on out. But for the most part, it's just me. So don't forget to check us out on the podcast. We're working on the getting the audio and stuff loaded into the podcast, so you can find me there wherever podcasts can be found, like iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify. And then no matter how you are hearing me, please say hello. Please do. And I just want to thank you for joining me here, and I hope you keep coming back. And if you do have show ideas or things you want me to talk about, by all means, let me know. I want to know what they are, and I will, try to address those topics. Or if you have questions, the call line is open tonight. The number is 213-233-3998. Again, that's 213-233-3998, or if you're across the pond, you can call me at 44203-393-2871. So you guys are just finishing up listening to Brent and Don over at the Paranormal Portal and all that they have to say. They're just a fun group of guys, and one of these days, I swear, I'm going to rig that planchette so it moves behind Don and everybody can see it by him. It'd be great. He'd probably go gray, but it'd be great. It'd just be fun, just for the giggles and such. Tonight, I guess last night we finished up talking about ley lines, and we also talked a little bit about how to be a pagan when you're still in the broom closet or pagan pantry, however you want to look at it, because it is hard to be a practicing pagan if you feel that you cannot have it out there where everybody can see it, or feel like you're going to be defensive or not comfortable sharing that information with your friends and family. And I get it, because there's parts of my family that I'm just not going to share the pagan path with. I don't want the fight. I don't want the explanation. So I get it. Totally get it. So tonight we're going to talk about Lammas, because it is coming up here in just a quick couple of weeks. Holy cow. Cannot believe how fast this year is just running by us. I will also talk some about how to observe Lammas, even if you are still in the broom closet, because there's quite a few folks that don't know how to really express their faith, or express, hey Deb, and don't really know how to really show who they are as a pagan or as a witch when it comes to the different holidays. So I want to talk about that just as we go, and talk about Lammas, because I think it's important. And there's a lot of things that the non-magic folks or non-pagan folks really do seasonally, that are actually very, very closely associated with paganism or observing your path, without even knowing it. I mean, hello, Halloween, Yule, all of that stuff. So yeah, it's just an adventure. So And then I do want to talk a little bit about pagan parenting because I'm a mom. I've got three. My boys are in their mid-20s, and my daughter is 5. So the adventure, it's like I've got a sequel going, the adventure part 2. And it's how to be a pagan parent today, because there's all sorts of blogs and there's newsletters and there's groups and everything getting together talking about how to be a Christian parent or just a parent in general. But those that really want to just teach their children their path, it's a little bit harder. And so a lot of what we do as pagans, when it comes to practicing our path, we really, there's a lot of it isn't really PG-13. It's a little bit more R-rated, or not really for, say, kindergartners or preschoolers. They may have more questions or not really understand the entire concepts of everything going on. So just some things to think about, and just how to help your children interpret your path and support them. And so, for instance, like last Yule, I started, or with last fall, I guess, when the acorns started falling, my daughter and I started gathering things for our Yule log that we were going to be doing when closer to Yule. So in October, start picking things up and stashed them away. And so in the process of doing that, we talked about the sorry, my brain just shut off. The Oak King and the battle that he fought and everything, and just the transition between seasons. And excuse me, downside of talking for an hour by myself is, man, I get thirsty. And so anyways, talking about the Oak King and the Holly King and the battle they fought, and the transition from one season to the next. And in my interpretation, Oak King and the Holly King are two very much the same people. It's just one part is more prevalent for half of the year than the other. So what does that mean, and how to describe it to someone who's much younger. So as we're moving into Lammas and starting to celebrate the harvest, we'll be acquiring gourds because I don't have the green thumb going this year. I planted some things mostly to fill in the dirt rather than to grow and harvest. I just didn't have time this year, and I didn't have the energy. And we often get so many things on our plate that it's hard to really focus and divert the attention to different things. So being a parent, and I work, and I do the podcast and blog and YouTube and TFR, and I try to go to different events with the community as far as being a pagan. And then and nowadays I also with Black Tree, we started, I should say, a circle for a local pagan group. And so this week, or not this week, what is it? It's going to be July 28th, the last Sunday of the month. We're going to meet at Starbucks in Ponderay at 3 o'clock. And then after that, we're probably going to be moving actually to where I am. And maybe here at the house, and we'll talk a little bit more about, what it means. And how to express ourselves, and how to find other people with like-minded beliefs, which is hard. It really is hard, because you don't want to just walk up to some random stranger and say, "Hey, are you a pagan?" And you're either going to, "Yeah, sure I am," or "No, I'm not, and why are you asking me?" I've had both, and it's kind of awkward on that last one. So we put it on Facebook, of course. Anybody's welcome. Hectic Eclectics, 3 p.m. On the 28th at Starbucks in Ponderay. And it's just, we talk about pagan stuff. It's not really focused on anything in particular yet. But when we start coming out to the house, maybe we'll start doing a circle or small circle or something like that. So, moving on, talking about Lammas, which is coming up. It's on August 1st. And it's also the Feast of Lugh. So Lammas, also called Lughnasdah. It's when we begin to kind of reap what we've sown throughout the past 3 months in the spring and such. And, acknowledging that summer is kind of starting to come to a close. And now there are, depending on your particular path, different ways to celebrate Lammas, of course. But typically, the focus is generally on the early harvest and celebration of the Celtic god Lugh. For me this year, we've got 6 weeks until school starts. And little Paisley is going to start going to kindergarten this year. And I am very excited about this because she needs to learn more. Holy cow, she's a smart kid. And she's doing her additions and subtractions already in alphabet, and she can write and do sight words, and oof. And for those of you on YouTube, no, I think it's my internet. I noticed it last night that there was some stalling in YouTube, and it's kind of frustrating. And I think it's really because I'm not hardlined onto the internet. I'm doing the Wi-Fi thing, and my router is at the wrong end of the house to the studio here. So it's me, Randall. Sorry. It's me. It's not you. So with the Lammas, in celebrating Lammas, there's the harvest, of course. So the ritual within generally celebrates the beginning of the harvest season, and the cycle of rebirth. And you can do this either as a solitary practitioner, or you can do it in a group or coven setting. And that ritual is just pretty basic. You have some things set up, and you call the corners, and you talk about the wheel of the year a little bit. And so just real quick note, I am probably not going to talk too much about different spells, generally speaking, or prayers, although I will today, just because we're celebrating Lammas, or getting there. For the most part, I feel that a lot of spells and rituals are going to be very much self-driven, and and interpreting your particular path. So I don't want you to copy what I say, partly because I'm doing research and I'm finding it in other places, but find what's really going to be in tune with you. Focus your intention. So for those of you on YouTube, Regular Girl just asked in TFR if I have strong feelings about the Bible one way or another. Not really. I feel pretty neutral. I think there is more drama, politics, and violence and romance in the Bible than there is in any Hollywood movie ever. I've actually read it. I think in my interpretation of the Bible, I see that it's not a monotheistic path. Christianity isn't. It's very much polytheistic. I mean, there's God the Father, there's God the Son, God the Holy Ghost. That's 3. And then there's the Antichrist or Satan. Suddenly, that's 4. So even though they say they're monotheistic, I'm not entirely sure they understand what monotheistic really means. Mono is 1. So, yeah, I don't know. I really don't. I think there's a lot of information in the Bible. There's magic in the Bible. There is talking to the deities and the gods in the Bible. So it's, I don't know, I think the words in the Bible is man's interpretation of the word of their God. And just like any other path, it's not necessarily for everyone. So yeah, I guess generally speaking, I feel pretty neutral about the Bible. It's got some interesting stories in it. I've read it, as I mentioned, and I see a lot of the different things in the Bible seem to repeat other stories or adaptations of stories of elder gods and such. Yes, the giants, Randall. There's I don't know. I also think there's some time gaps in the Bible. For instance, between Genesis 1, Genesis 2, how much time actually passed. Um, they just found not to in the last actually they found it a long time ago, but they just did some research. One of the museums over in England, I believe it was, were recataloging their bone collection and found a skull that is probably close to 120,000 years old of Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens is us, which changes the timeline on, when the age of mankind, and so there's some timeline issues I have with the Bible and the general interpretation of it. As far as the timeline goes. I think I don't know. I think the Bible is just definitely just another work of knowledge or body of knowledge for their particular path. So yeah, I talked about it maybe too much, but yeah, giants. I think there's the Fae. They're not interpreted that way, but I think there's a lot in the Bible that most people just ignore because it doesn't fit their interpretation of their faith. And I don't know. I guess we do that too with many of the deities that we follow. And yeah, Randall, it very much is written by humans, but it's their interpretation of what they felt the message was from their deity. So I don't know. It's an interesting read. Hard to read. I think there's been a lot of information that's been lost in translation also, because some of the more fantastical things that may have happened in the Bible, later generations may not have believed that it was as fantastical as it could have been. And so instead of using the literal translations of some of those fantastical things, they used slightly more mellow or calm, reserved, if you will, events or words. So, I don't know. I guess I have a lot to say about it. But I'm pretty open to the Bible. And if that's your path, that's your path. Just please accept that I am not a Christian. I'm a pagan. And just like I'm going to accept that you're a Christian and not a pagan is, one of our first coffee meetings that we got together with the Hectic Eclectics group. We were sitting right next to a table full of folks doing a Bible study. And you know what? There's 20 of us kind of all together, 15 to 20 of us, and we all sat there and had coffee, and we got along great, and there's no casting of insults or hurling of stones or anything else. It was just, just two separate groups just doing our own thing, and that's the way it should be. I think with, different beliefs, different faiths, is just acknowledge that I'm not of your faith, and I'm not going to be. So don't pressure me, and I'm not going to do the same to you. So, but open dialogue, love that. So back to Lammas. There during the Lammas harvest ritual, the time of celebrating Lammas, you can also honor Lugh of the many skills. So take the day, celebrate your own abilities and skills, and you can make an offering to Lugh to honor him because he's the Celtic god of craftsmanship. Now, there are other harvest deities, and in doing research, I found an article written by Patty Wigington, and she had a lot of great information there. And it's like, well, why am I going to reinvent the wheel? I really like the way she just wrote everything out. So, in ancient cultures, this time of year, as we move into summer, late summer, it's when the first grains are threshed, apples are becoming plump, gardens are overflowing, except for mine. Although I have mint. Anybody want some mint? And it's when a lot of the gods and goddesses were honored. And so there's quite a few different deities that are associated with a harvest holiday. So in the Assyrian culture, it was Adonis. And now Adonis actually was part of several different cultures, and not just with the Assyrians. He's also portrayed as a Greek deity, but he actually first appeared in very early on in the Assyrian religions. So he was the god of the dying summer vegetation. So the wheat as it turns golden, and things are becoming ripe and the vines are starting to die, that kind of thing. So in many stories, he does die at the end of summer and then is later reborn, so like Attis or Tammuz in the Assyrian path or religion. In the Phrygian, Attis is the lover of Cybele, and he went mad and castrated himself, which is kind of traumatic, but still managed to get turned into a pine tree at the moment of his death. So in some stories, now he was in love with a naiad, and Cybele was kind of a jealous person and then killed the tree, and then a naiad who lived in it. And so it's again going back to that birth and rebirth and regeneration. Now, not all of the gods are entirely sane, or really understand, just kind of roll with it a little bit. They didn't know that they were being in excess. And I think that's why deities such as brain shut down, as Loki came about. It wasn't so much that they're trickster gods, but they're a balancing god or deity to offset some of the largesse and just bizarreness that some of the other deities had. The next one would be Ceres. Now he was Roman. Now, so funny thing, you know how we eat cereal in the morning for breakfast often? The word cereal is derived from the Roman god Ceres. He was the harvest god, she, was the Roman goddess of the harvest and grain. And she was also the one who taught mankind, how to preserve grain and preparing corn and how to thresh it. And she was just kind of a mother goddess who's responsible for agriculture and fertility. Then in Dagon, who's a Semitic goddess, or god, he was the god of fertility and agriculture, and he was also kind of a fatherly type of deity that was mentioned in early Sumerian texts, and has appeared as a fish god. So there's your merman, but he's credited with giving the Amorites the knowledge to build the plow, which led on to crops and things. Now let's go to Demeter first. She's the Greek equivalent of Ceres, and Demeter is often linked to the changing of the seasons, and she's connected to the image of the Dark Mother in the late fall and early winter. And now when her father Persephone was abducted by Hades, Demeter's grief caused the earth to die for 6 months until Persephone's return. So that is, again, the birth and the cycle of life. She, in her grief, that's when the winter came, fall came, that kind of thing. And so next, real quick, is Lugh. So he's known as both the god of skill and the distribution of talent, and he's associated often with midsummer because of his role as a harvest god. And then during the summer solstice, the crops are just flourishing and waiting to be plucked from the ground at Lughnasdah. So it's just the cycle of rebirth and such. So it looks like we are just going on. The next one would be Mercury. He's a Roman god, so he's fleet of foot. Mercury was. He was also considered to be the god of commerce and was associated with the trade. And and the grain trade specifically. And so in late summer, early fall, he would run from one place to the next to let everyone know it was time to bring in the harvest. And then in Gaul, he was considered not only the god of agriculture, but also of abundance and commercial success. So he was just someone that everybody really wanted to be friends with and do things with. So it looks like we are already at the bottom of the hour. Oh my gosh. How is time flying? So we're going to go to break. If you want to give me a call, by all means do so. The number again, just so you know, is 213-233-3998. Or if you're in the UK, of course, it's 44-203-393-2871. And don't forget to check out the Etsy store. And we'll see you soon. Phone isn't there. Okay.
Yes, it is. Audio input.
Okay.
Don't fucking change things.
Okay.
You have too much light, too.
Okay.
Definitely Midwestern light.
I know. That's why the orange shirt.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of the couch?
I really don't look. Does she not want the...
She didn't have any way to get up here to get them, so...
Does she want the lug feet?
No.
Then why did you Oh, no, she didn't. Okay.
Oh, those are cute.
Rainbow sequence. Those are 7s. Those are 7s.
She'll love those.
My next shirt.
Oh, yes. She'll like that.
10 pairs of underwear.
Okay.
And I got her short socks, no shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I also got her longer socks.
Okay.
And then
Tank tops.
Which will go with everything.
Awesome. Okay. That's easy enough to do.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool.
Everything looks good.
That's easy enough to do. That's easy enough Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wilde, and you are here with me in the spaces between, or at the spaces between. Thank you for joining me again. And the call line is live. And that number again is 213-233-3998. And if you call in and I miss you, I'm sorry. I'm trying to check periodically. So, we were talking about llamas. And the next one that I wanted to go over was, or is, Osiris. Now she's Egyptian, and she was an androgynous green deity named, originally named Nippur, in Egypt during times of starvation, and later Nippur became seen as an aspect of Osiris and part of the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. So, and then Osiris himself is like similar to Isis, just became associated with the harvest season. And then the next one is Parvati, who's Hindu. Now, Parvati was the consort of the god Shiva, and although she doesn't necessarily appear in the Vedic literature, she's celebrated today as the goddess of the harvest and protector of women in the annual Gauri festival. The next one is Pomona. Now, she's Roman, and she was the apple goddess and was the keeper of the orchards and fruit trees. Now, unlike other agriculture deities, she was not associated with the harvest itself, but more with the flourishing of fruit trees. And so she's usually portrayed with a cornucopia or a tray of blossoming fruit. And now, she's kind of obscure, yes, but her likeness does occur in many times in classical art, including paintings by Rubens and Rembrandt and just various other sculptures. The next one to go over is Tammuz. Now, Tammuz is Sumerian and was the god of vegetation and crops, and was often associated with the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. And he's was Adonis-like, of course, with the Sumerians, and he actually lived on Earth for part of the year, and as a shepherd and agriculturist, and was very much loved by the goddess Ishtar. And then he died so he can depart the realm of Ereshkigal, which is Persephone, the queen of Hades. So it just and quite a few different deities come up this time of year. And there's many different ways to celebrate those different deities, of course. Now, some of them are very the simple rituals. You could just cast your corners and call on your deities or your goddesses, gods, spirit guides, etc. And you can just offer up a simple prayer within a circle or without, either way. So I have a couple examples of prayers. Now, you're more than welcome, and actually I'd even recommend writing your own, just because it would come from within or from yourself if you're going to write a prayer specific for llamas. So a prayer for grain and a harvest be like fields of gold, waves of grain, the summer comes to a close, the harvest is ready, ripe for threshing. As the sun fades into autumn, flour will be milled, bread will be baked, and we shall eat for another winter. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and pretty awesome, I guess. I think. Now, for the warrior soul, of course, the warrior soul, fighting in spirit, follows a code of honor and wisdom. Strength is found not in the arms, not in the knife, the gun, or the sword, but in the mind and the soul. And I call upon the warriors of the past, those who would stand up and fight, those who would do what is needed, those who would make sacrifices on behalf of others, those who would die that others may live. I call upon them this night to give me strength of heart and soul and spirit. Again, just, some of these are just really pretty. And if you don't have the gift of poetry, that's okay. To find someone who does, or just, again, it's your intention is also behind the words. And just what what you feel in your heart and your soul, will be expressed as your intention as you're having a ritual or a prayer during Lammas time. Um, Now, specifically, a prayer for Lugh would be Great Lugh, Master of Artisans, Leader of Craftsmen, Patron of Smiths, I call upon you and honor you this day. You of the many skills and talents, I ask you to shine upon me and bless me with your gifts. Give me strength and skill. Make my hands and my mind deft. Shine light upon my talents. Almighty Lugh, I thank you for your blessings. And then one more is just kind of more of the harvest deities in um, general. The fields are full, the orchards blooming, and the harvest has arrived. Hail to the gods who watch over the land. Hail to Ceres, goddess of the wheat. Hail to Mercury, fleet of foot. Hail Pomona and the fruitful apples. Hail Attis, who dies and is reborn. Hail Demeter, bringing the dark of the year. Hail Bacchus, who fills the goblets with wine. We honor you all in this time of harvest and set our tables with your bounty. Um, so again, just I don't know. I love that poetry of it. So um, again, set your intention, say your words, and sometimes they're going to be a greater connection or more powerful with the greater intent that you have before you do your ritual. Now, as we approach Lammas, how do you decorate your altar? What do you do? And you just use a lot of the colors and symbols of the season, the yellows, the orange, the golds, that kind of thing. Now, I know generations may have something more to do with generations. Like my grandmother, for instance, she would cycle out the different decorations throughout her house according to the season. And often she would just gradually do it, merging one season to the next, or she would just gather everything up as, say, the 4th of July ended, she'd take all the 4th of July stuff down and start putting up the fall stuff. And a lot of pumpkins and dried flowers and gourds and fruit and such, and cornucopias and that kind of thing. And now she was very, very, very Christian. And a lot of what she did, though, was actually very, very pagan, or a representative of pagan in what she was doing. And so this is where, talking a little bit about being in the pagan pantry or broom closet, a lot of what everybody does as far as decorations go is not just for the pagan path. It's also for the wider section of society. So have a cornucopia as a centerpiece on your table. Put some fruit in there, some gourds, pumpkins, that kind of thing. Even though it's not necessarily your altar, you're still decorating for the season and the holiday. And when you're placing those things out there, you're doing it with intent. And so you're putting out there that you're observing those holidays. Now, sheaves of wheat or barley are very symbolic of the season. And if you have dried flower arrangements or that kind of thing around, just add a couple of stalks of wheat to your flower arrangements that you may already have, or especially your fake flowers if that's what you've got, because then you're still acknowledging the season and the holiday without necessarily putting it out there that you have a really big altar and or that you're very, very pagan. Now with the wheat, if you are a little bit more out of the closet, you can make sun wheels or pentacles or stars or just a variety of things with the sheaves of wheat. Excuse me. Ears of corn, as corn is drying out, you could just husk some ears of corn and just add them to your cornucopia or put them on the middle of your table as a centerpiece, or your bathroom or whatever it is that you tend to decorate for the different seasons. And just bring those different elements to your normal home decor. Now, corn dollies are a thing. Yeah, it's where you're actually making figures with the corn husks, which is kind of fun. I might try to do that this year with my daughter. I think she'd have just a big kick out of that because she loves her dolls. Ripe fruit, just in a bowl. So go to the store, get some apples and oranges, put them in a bowl in the middle of your table. It's there for everybody to eat, but it's also very much symbolic of the holiday and the season. Now, if you like a little bit more permanent decoration, you could get ceramic apples, for instance, and use them as candle holders for like taper candles or something. Again, it's just looks like normal decor. It doesn't look like you're a practicing pagan. Again, the gourds, squashes, and cornucopias, any of that is just very, very, very representative of the season, and they're out there everywhere. Now, when it comes to being in the closet or the pagan pantry, what are you going to do? You can, like I mentioned last night, share your beverage, your morning beverage with the ground outside, or your plants in the house. I like to have a nice big glass of water when I first wake up because I'm thirsty. It might have something to do with my snoring, probably. And anyways, I'm very, very thirsty, so often I will, share whatever my glass of water is with the plants. If I'm in the bathroom, I've got plants in the bathroom, I water them at the same time. Or if I'm downstairs, I might pour water on Groot, my oak tree, especially if he's looking a little peaked, or the big tree next to him, or any of the other ones. So I seem to have a lot of plants suddenly. And so that's a thing. Or you could, if you steam your vegetables, keep your vegetable water and pour that on your plants. That's a great way to add nutrients to your plants. In addition to, if you have that intention or mindset that you're, offering a gift to the deities, then you know what? That's what that is. It's just that easy. And you can have, like I said last night, rocks in with your plants. A lot of folks collect rocks or driftwood, feathers, candles, that kind of thing. All of that is very, very representative of the pagan path, but without necessarily being just in your face. Yes, I'm a pagan. You don't have to have a pentacle carved on everything, and just various deity statuettes everywhere. So, it's just a matter of, what are you willing to put out there as far as, decorating your home or preparing yourself to practice your path. Now, for cleansing rituals and such, use your shower. You take a shower in the morning or evening. Just you're washing away that negativity, and it's a part of your ritual. That you're doing that cleansing, and it doesn't necessarily, like I said before, you don't have to be out there loud and proud. You can be in the pantry and protecting yourself from the biases and negativity of others. Cleaning the house, that's very much ritualistic often. I did it today. Holy cow. Mini Paisley has a little play area, as she loves it. It's where the dolls are and the horses and everything, and debris. Lots of debris. And got tired of it, so I found a garbage bag full of garbage that was in there. And it felt great. And then I went upstairs and I swept and vacuumed the rest of the house and rearranged the furniture. And I feel like I accomplished something. I got rid of the old. And some of that is really much just the process. It's very ritualistic. Natalie, yes, jars. Which jars? Those are a thing. It doesn't have to be very much in your face with your practice. But if you do, like, for instance, our coffee meetup that we're having here in a couple weeks, it's just a general meetup. Oh, hey, I bumped into you at the coffee shop. How you doing? Nice to see you. And it just looks like, you just bumped into a friend and saying hi. We had a lady join us that's exactly what she was doing. She stopped in for a cup of coffee and saw a bunch of people she knew, and she sat down and joined us. Found out she's very Christian, but she was just interested in what we were talking about, and we just had a conversation, and then that's the way it should be, that community. If so, like as a kitchen witch, from as I am, when I'm cooking, I'm doing a lot of things that are very methodical or witchy, without necessarily being overtly so. I might stir my soups, counterclockwise or clockwise, or if I'm making a sauce, I may be, drawing different runes in the sauce, or if I'm adding dry ingredients and I want it to taste better or benefit someone, I might draw a rune or something in my dry ingredients before I add my liquids. So it's very subtle ways to add those protections to or those intentions to my everyday life, the things I'm doing all the time. And it's, again, it doesn't have to be out there loud and proud. And when you're doing this, you're also showing your children, because they do copy us, they're going to be doing the same thing. They're also going to become more accepting of other faiths and paths, and they won't necessarily feel the need to just be out there and show the world that this is the way to practice. So it's just their interpretation or the way they do it. Going on walks, hikes, collecting rocks. If you're near the ocean, collecting seashells or driftwood, any of that, with your children, and explaining the whys behind it. And you know them best, so you're explaining the whys, why you're doing something, at their level, and I think it's good. With my daughter, yeah, we're very ground level, very basic. We talk about the different colors, like with candle magic. What do the different colors mean? I made myself a little travel altar to go with me, and if I'm traveling or whatnot, and I sealed my little wax paper packets with sage and salt and cascarilla powder, for instance, with a little drop of red wax. And why? Is because I want it sealed and I want it to be protected. So in putting the wax on my little packets, I was setting that intention even right there. Yeah, undercover coven. You're right, Natalie. And just making sure I'm setting that intention for those tools. But yeah, the different colors of the candles. Even the Christians use different colors of candles during the Advent. They change the colors depending on which week. So there is meaning to the different colors. So having different colored candles, you can do that with the different seasons. Or, hey, this week I want to have apple pie candle that's red, and next week I want an orange spice that's orange. But those colors and even some of those smells are definitely associated with the different seasons and different practices and such. Now, I did a little bit of research, seeing what I could find specifically on pagan parenting and such. And well, there's a lot out there that's like 2 or 3 years old. It's like folks started off being pagan and talking about how they're parenting, and then they ran out of energy. And I get it. That happens. So I guess that's something to be aware of. That some of those podcasts, YouTube channels, and blogs are maybe not contemporary or current, but there's still some really good information out there. But really, most of the comments I saw is like, hey, we need more of these sites. So I don't know. Maybe I'll try to blog too in my copious free time. Yeah, not much of that. But you never know. It could happen. I didn't have a garden this year. That means I have a little more time, right? And, but yeah, just, your kids, you can explain things the way they'll understand them without necessarily using the big words or the big big graphics, you can keep them toned down for your littles. And the biggest thing I think when you're doing that is to make sure you're teaching your kiddos the tolerance and being respectful of other faiths. We don't have to all believe the same things, and it's pretty normal for us to not believe all the same things, because we have different experiences and different connections with the world, and so our path is going to be very reflective of it, and that's normal. That's just life. You're not going to have the same relationship with your BFF from high school that you're going to have with your BFF from college, or even your siblings. Those are all different relationships, so your relationships with your deities are going to be different and unique as well. Again, very, very normal. So just to kind of summarize, Lammas is coming up 1st of August. Also Lughnasdah, a celebration of the Lord Lugh, and just different ways to practice the colors of the season: your oranges, yellows, browns, reds, greens to an extent, your darker greens, and embrace those colors. Get candles in those colors. And then the cornucopia, add the gourds and the apples and the fruits, or just have a bowl of fruit on your table. Hey, I bought fruit for everybody, eat up. Well, when you put the fruit out there, you're setting that intention that, it's representative of the season. And then, you don't have to be loud and proud to be a pagan. A lot of our guides and our deities are very accepting of what we can do. They know that we're not going to just, especially if we live in town and our nearest neighbor is 20 feet away, or you live in a condo and you're not going to go out into the front yard and run around skyclad and do a ritual right in the yard. You don't have to do that to be representative of your faith. If you do it, YouTube it, because I want to see what everybody else does, because it'll be hilarious. Some of us should not be skyclad in public. Just saying. Actually, most of us shouldn't be, to be honest. It's to be distracting. Just be aware of what you're doing, and you focus that intent, because a lot of what we practice and from one day to the next is very much internal. It's very much intuitive to ourselves, and you don't have to, kneel before an altar and light your incense and smudge your space and do all the different steps just to observe your path and recognize your deities and do your worship. You can do that. Just set your intention, share your morning coffee or water or tea or whatever it is you have your first beverage of the day in thanks for the new day. You can do the same thing at night as you're ending your night. I know that I generally have a glass of water going as I go to getting ready for bed, and I'm still leaving a glass of water on the counter that's mostly empty. And just pour it out over my plants and say thank you for the good day. So it's really, baby steps. Include all of it and set your intention and set your focus on it and you don't have to be rat in somebody's face to show that you're practicing. So we are going to be here every Friday and Saturday night at 9 p.m. We're going to keep following Don and Brent and the Paranormal Portals. I think it's a good time. I like seeing you guys. Most of you are awake. It's awesome. I like seeing all the new names and faces and such. If you want to support my show, you can absolutely go to the Etsy shop, and that is www.etsy.com/shop/Monarch Mountain Studio, and that's MTN for mountain. Hi, nuts. And there's a PayPal link on YouTube if you want to support me that way. And by all means, shoot me an email if you have ideas for the shows or something you want to do. It's wildpaisley@gmail.com. That's WILDEPAISLEY @gmail.com. If you have a story or something you wanted to share about, your encounter with the deity or guide, by all means do so. I would love to hear it, and if you're okay with it, I'll read it on the air. Or if you don't want it to be known that it was you, that's fine too. I can say, hey, this guy, or hey, that girl, or somebody somewhere, and no worries. And yeah, ideas for shows, shoot me an email or something you want to learn more about. I love your input. So I guess thank you for joining me here tonight, you guys. I really appreciated it. If you do have thoughts or ideas, let me know. So merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. And we'll see you next week. And thank you. Have a good night, everybody.